What type of person do I want to be? While this may not be a question that people ask on a daily basis, it is the center of determining how you act or react when faced with decisions. Virtue ethics refers to the importance motives play in moral questions. Meaning, what is your motivation for acting in a certain way that will hopefully not only benefit yourself, but also others? When someone acts from virtue, it means there is something specific motivating that action, and this is essential when faced with moral decisions. Encouraging good choices is one of the main components of the moral education of children. We are taught that we should want certain outcomes that go beyond simply following rules that we have been taught, or seeking the outcome that is best for just you. But without a good reason or explanation, it is hard to truly understand the reason behind them. When I was growing up, if my mom told me just not to do something, I may or may not have stopped doing it. But when she told me all the reasons why I should not do it and what effect it would have, I was a lot more likely to change my behavior. This is the importance of having a motivation behind something. It means thinking more universally and not just narrowly. I think it is really important that people learn this when they are young, because it becomes a way of thinking about things. I learned this in part to Dharma school. Other people learn this in Sunday school. I only went to Dharma school for a couple of years, but the concepts I learned were important. Dharma school is a kind of Sunday school for Buddhists. We were not Buddhists, but we spent some time in the community when I was younger. In Dharma school, we learned about Dharma, but at a level kids could practice and apply. However, these ideas could be used by anyone. Dharma refers to behaviors that are considered supportive of the order that makes life and the universe possible. These include duties, rights, laws, conduct, virtues, and a right way of living. In Buddhism, Dharma specifically means cosmic law and order, and refers to ethical conduct and righteousness. So basically, Dharma school teaches kids how to behave in an ethically virtuous way. What stuck with me are the examples the teacher used to explain these things with. She made it really easy to understand why we should act this way. However, this assumes that once we know how to create the person we want to be, making the moral decision will be clear and easy. This is not always the case. It is often not clear at all, so there are a lot of difficulties in this. We not only have to figure out what type of person we want to be, but what are the characteristics of this type of person, and more importantly, what actions should I take to be this type of person? And then apply these actions in multiple situations. I think even the Buddha himself would find this difficult in our complicated society. When there are clear-cut rules to follow, it could be easy. But oftentimes there are not black and white answers, so making the right choice is not clear. Also, the question of what is right can be different depending on what some of your background or basic belief system is. Two people could both be very ethical and virtuous, but think that the right course of action is different. There's a saying, one person's virtue may be another person's vice. A vice in one set of circumstances may be a virtue in the other. The first video was about the Stanford prison experiment, in which people assume the role of either guard or prisoner. They did this to study how people would behave when given positions of power over other people, and also how people would behave when given the role of subservience. Everyone took their roles very seriously, as it became a reality for them. This is not what I expected to happen. I wouldn't have thought that the people would take their roles so seriously and take on these roles as if this was real life. The ease at which people will conform to social roles is amazing to me, especially because of how quickly this escalated. We see this a lot in a couple of different places. One place is in situations of bullying. Often, not only do people go along with a bully, but they also join in on the behavior and adopt the role of a bully. This position of power must be giving some level of satisfaction to people, otherwise they would not be acting in this way. The other place that we see this is in riots. The enthusiasm for the event taking place takes a hold of people, and they act as a group in ways they would not normally behave. This experiment shows us that, for the most part, humans behave situationally. This means that depending on the situation, our brains will choose the way we behave. In a post-experimental interview, one of the guards states that in the moment he didn't feel any regret about what he was doing, and that it was only after the experiment had concluded that he really started to think about his actions. There are many factors that may have gone into his lack of remorse. One being the fact that he knew it was all part of an experiment, so he thought his actions wouldn't have real-life consequences. Another one being the fact that he was just doing what he was told by the other guards and the scientists. The second video shows how susceptible people are to suggestion when that suggestion is coming from a person of authority. This may be because humans naturally want to work together. However, it is shocking that people would carry this so far to harm other people. When I think back to the concentration camps during World War II, it seems unbelievable that so many people would be so complacent with such evil acts against other people. However, all of those people just went along with this behavior and were convinced that it was the right thing to do. This has been repeated over and over again throughout history, regardless of how harmful or shocking the behavior is. There is something about authoritative personalities that enables them to convince people to do things they would not otherwise ever think of doing. This goes back to the idea of how hard virtue ethics is. Even though we all know the right way to behave, and most of us have been taught right from wrong, and not to do harm, there remains gray areas and doubt in our minds that allow us to adopt behaviors and actions that go against morality. Even though what was shown in the video has happened before in terms of people being willing to inflict harm on others, I still find it hard to believe that it would happen again, especially on such a large scale as the Holocaust. However, even on a small scale, I can't see myself being able to inflict pain on someone directly, even though it is clear what is happening. This all goes back to the question I began with. What type of person do you want to be? This is a question we should all be asking ourselves. Once we identify who we want to be, we have a motivation to behave in a certain way. It may not always be easy, however, at least we will have a clear path.